It is a literary book festival that's taking place here in Gainesville, Florida, and I have the honor of meeting many of the authors who will be a part of the Sunshine State Book Festival, January the 27th to 28th at Trinity United Methodist Church in Gainesville, Florida. And tonight, I'm thrilled to have a couple of my old friends, Marie McKenzie in Orlando, Florida, and J.E. Mooney. You're in Florida as well. Where are you?
St. Augustine.
That's right, St. Augustine. How could I forget? Thank you all so much for your willingness to share who you are, whether it's fiction, J.E. Mooney, or whether it's a memoir, Marie McKenzie. Thank you for sharing your words and your thoughts with us, and then sharing this time with us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Authors in Conversation is a way to allow the readers to get to know the people who are behind the pages. I've mentioned before that it was Pat who chairs the committee this year, said when she was a little girl and the first time that she met an author, she was in awe because so many people don't get to meet authors. They pull books off the shelf, whether it's in the library or at a bookstore. But to be able to meet the authors, how special is this for you all? Marie, we'll start with you to be able to come and see people one-on-one.
I am so excited about the opportunity. I have not been to a book fair before, so I'm expecting all the excitement and to see all the readers and the other authors. So looking forward to it.
I think this is a great book festival. I attended the very first one, and we had a great time. We met all the authors themselves for the first night, and then during the day, it was a constant stream of people of all kinds who are looking at different kinds of books that they wanted to read, and were actually just exploring. So it's a very exciting book festival, and the opportunity to get to talk to the people about your work is kind of heady. I mean, certainly for me as a new author. This is my second book here. I guess I'm imagining it's similar for you, Marie. It's like
Yes.
I get to talk about something that is personally very important to me, and to have other people think about it and want to actually buy it is a new experience, and it's a thrilling one.
Yes.
So J.E., you were at the first one. Did you find that because people were able to see you, touch you, that they're more likely to purchase your book?
Oh, I think that's a big part of a book festival. Absolutely. Not only do you get to tell your story, but you get to hear the stories of the people who are looking at books, finding out from them what's important to them and what's in their lives, and see if there's a portion of your book or of your life that relates to them, like you were meeting a friend. Or as my father said, a new friend. A stranger's just a friend that you've just met for the first time. So
I like that.
that's the kind of experience these book festivals are. I really enjoy them.
And so, Marie, to hear that, to talk about meeting people for the first time who can identify with your story. Your memoir is about your journey as someone who has survived sexual assault, and you are a counselor. What do you think that's going to be like with you? Because in the United States of America, unfortunately, the statistic is every 73 seconds.
Every 68 seconds.
It's gone down to 68?
Every 68
Wow.
seconds, someone in the US, and every 9 minutes, the victim is a child. So this is like a scourge, a secret scourge on the US society. I mean, and worldwide too. It's not just here. And it's tragic. And that's something I'm very passionate about, to be championing that cause. Writing the book was very cathartic for me because I hadn't spoken about my trauma. It happened the first time was when I was 11, and I hadn't spoken about it until I was an adult. So getting the opportunity to write about it and to share it with other people who have, some have opened up to me about their experience for the first time since it happened to them. So it's like a healing ministry that I'm in, actually. It's called.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure that you're going to meet people at the festival for whom this book speaks to them in a way that maybe nothing else or no one else has.
Right.
What an experience.
Yes. And
And
looking
thank you for writing such a book.
Yeah, thank you.
And
And
sharing your life, sharing those kinds of details with your life.
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have goosebumps just
Yeah.
thinking about this. It's hard.
Yeah, for
But it's
many,
so
many
important.
years, I was ashamed. I wouldn't talk about it, but the shame is not mine. I didn't do anything,
Exactly.
so to turn the shame where it belongs, on the perpetrators.
And not enough light is shown on the perpetrators, and
Exactly.
it's so hard. I've known it through friends and people close to me, but never could I really feel that experience that you're going through, and your ability through your book, and also just through your ministry, as you say, to touch people like that is, I think, critically important.
Yeah, we need to be talking about this subject more. It's like a big secret sometime in families, and we shouldn't, because the victim suffers.
And they
Yes.
continue to suffer. The big secret, and we have people who continue to hurt generation after generation after
Yes.
generation. J.E. Mooney, you are from another perspective. I know you talk about your journey and figuring out what you actually want to do. Have you figured that out yet? What you want to do when you grow up?
Yes. Yes, I want to write fiction. I want
There
to
you
write
go.
novels. It's interesting though. The two books that I have written and the other three that I have started are all inspired by actual events. One of the events of the current book that I will be launching essentially at the book fair, it's called Throwaway Boy, and I'm not giving anything away. This is not a spoiler alert or anything. You'll learn this on the first page, but it's a young man who had survived juvenile detention, and 3 years out, he'd gotten his life together. And then his mentor learns that he committed suicide.
Wow.
And so this is real in my life, and it's no secret. It's also, and the dedication of the book, that this book is dedicated to my wife, who was that mentor, and got that phone call. I got the visit actually from the grandmother, and then the rest of the book is a search, because things don't add up, and I think that's one of the things that for me was important, is try to bring some resolution in a more hopeful light that was not there available for us in reality. So that was part of the journey of this latest book that I've done, sharing that experience through my wife.
In writing, both of you are talking about some very, very powerful things that people go through. Every night we lose 100 people to gun violence, but only one is a homicide. 1 in 7 is a homicide. 1 in 7 is a homicide. The others are suicides.
Yeah, that's a very difficult subject. I'm more familiar with it than I like to think about, quite honestly. But suicide is real, and it happens so often to young people in ways that are inexplicable, or certainly to me, they're inexplicable. How could a young person who has seen a light in the life that he or she is now leading find no hope, or be so depressed that they can't get beyond that? It's something that I only explored a little bit in the novel, but something that intrigues me and touches me, and I am intending to look at it more deeply in some other works of fiction later on.
For you, Marie, when you are uncovering this and coming forth with this information about what happened to you when you were a child, and as you have pointed out, perpetrators are, more times than not, 95% of the time, it's somebody that you know.
Yes.
Did you have to make any phone calls to say, look, I'm getting ready to write this?
No, I didn't. I just wrote it, and I alerted family members before it was published. But
Well, that's what I mean. Did you have to alert family members before you published?
I didn't have to.
Well, you didn't have to, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, I didn't feel compelled, but and I didn't give details of what it would be. I had done a podcast. It was the first time it went public, and I emailed it to family members who were surprised because they were hearing it for the first time. I had told one aunt who was deceased before I published the book. But and I also learned through revealing that there were more perpetrators in my family, not just this one person that was making the rounds among the girls in my family that was never held accountable to this day, as far as I know, and is still a member of the family. Yes.
You know, in the group that I worked with in April, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I thought, I did say to the group, what if we put perpetrators, put their pictures on the refrigerator? I mean, somehow we have to be bold enough to stop this.
Yes.
Otherwise, people continue to hurt. And I understand those numbers have gone up, which is probably why it's now down to every 68 seconds during COVID with people being on lockdown, that the numbers actually went up.
And you mentioned the suicides. A lot of suicides are due to unresolved trauma. People just internalize, keep it in, don't talk about it. The anger, the fear, they're reliving the trauma in their heads, and they just want it to stop. So
that's so interesting. I was going to ask you to talk a little bit more about how your trauma affected you, and how you're able to become stronger or more resolved because of it, and how do you do that rather than what you just mentioned is internalize it to an extent that it can lead you to something as drastic as suicide.
I kept it a secret for a long time, and I internalized for a very long time. My chosen career path as a registered nurse trusts me in the path of victims of sexual assault. I cared for them in the emergency room, listened to their story, saw myself in their eyes. So through caring for them and organizations and people who work towards helping them, that helped me to unload my trauma and use different techniques to heal. Healing scriptures, daily gratitude journal, affirmations, talking to people. So, there is help.
Yeah,
that's fabulous.
Yeah, it is. And to say that when you would be hearing other people's stories and you would see yourself in their eyes, reliving that over and over again for you, talk about what it means to release that so that your cells are not continuously experiencing the release of the harmful hormone cortisol when you're reliving this over and over again.
The book was cathartic because, as I told my editor, everything I wrote about, I could still see, taste, feel, smell. It was like it happened yesterday. This started at 11. I'll be 61 this year. I wrote this book last year, and everything was vivid. So it was just like getting it out there, and the fact that it's known everywhere now, it's like, oh, I don't have to feel shame anymore. There are women who don't even know that they were sexually assaulted, because sexual assault covers, it's an umbrella for different terms, and different states have different definition. So it's not just rape. And I was talking to a lady a few weeks ago, and she knew about my story and what I do, coaching victims of sexual assault. And she explained what happened to her at 5 years old. And that was sexual assault, and she had no idea. So
what did she say? What did she say? So that we can have some idea.
So as a 5-year-old, something her dad had done, encouraged by her mother. So it's like the parents were, yes. So it was a sexual contact between the dad and the child, encouraged by the mother. But yeah, she knew it was wrong, but to this day, she didn't know it was sexual assault until I told her.
Because it felt normal.
It felt wrong to her.
Felt
But she didn't
wrong.
know what it was at the time. And she didn't know what it was, that it was sexual assault, until I said, that's a sexual assault.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
That's more than heartbreak. And it's happening every day, every day, every day, more than you can imagine. To your boys and your girls, not just your girls. Guard your children. Guard your children. When you see little Johnny or Mary doesn't want to go to Uncle Tim or Auntie Sue because perpetrators are male and female, they're heterosexual, they're homosexual. So don't just think it's one. There are women raping women, men raping boys and men and women. So don't think it's just men raping women or boys and girls. It's boundless. It's just, and the statistics are staggering.
So this is the kind of thing that keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
But not just as a victim. I'm thinking as a parent, not these days of young children, but as a parent who has brought up young children.
Yes.
The worry that you have every time they leave the house,
yes.
Get on a school bus, want to go to a friend's house, and how to try to keep contact with them and how to keep them safe is such an overwhelming need from a parent. And I have to say that these days I feel relieved that the kids are squared away and we got through those difficult times. But so many people don't and aren't able to. And I guess that's the opportunity to write about it, particularly through your personal perspective, Marie, I think is astonishing.
Yeah, and I encourage parents to educate their children about what's out there, because a lot of children think it's okay for people in authority, they're touching them certain ways and doing certain things. Oh, and it's their little secret, and they keep that secret. Parents need to have an open line of communication. If this happens, come and tell me, tell an adult.
Right.
Let your children feel safe coming to you. Let them know what's not normal, what's not appropriate. Because if they don't know, it will be happening right under your nose and they will not tell you.
Yeah.
Marie McKenzie and J.E. Mooney are going to be part of the Sunshine State Book Festival in Gainesville, Florida, January 28th, 27th. The authors will get to meet each other in person. I will be there as an author with my book, The Art of Forgiveness. This writing process for both of you, I want you to talk about getting started, because Marie, this happened to you when you were a child. You have been successful in your career as a registered nurse. And then J.E., how did you get started? What is the starting point? Because there are people who will be watching, who are listening, and they feel pregnant with a book,
right?
So
they're not sure when it's time to push.
I can say that the story. Let's talk about my first book, because that's what really got me writing. And my first book, it actually took me 12 years to complete the manuscript, which was way too long. Thank God I had good editors. But it was a story about an amazing time in my life back in my early 20s when I was living in West Africa. I was living in Senegal, and I was leading, working in expeditions up the Senegal River Basin. I had tried to write the story a couple of times, but work and family and all kinds of things sort of pushed to the forefront. So it always got put on the back burner. So my story was one I had to write and had waited a long time to write. And I found myself after my divorce, single again and living again overseas, working 24/7, but finding time to now be myself and in the moment write about that time far back, also in Africa. that was so important and compelling. And from that point forward, because I enjoyed it so much, I wanted to tell a complete and complex story. I decided that when I retired, I was going to continue to write. And I would look for these stories that that were part of my life, that had touched me, that I thought were worth telling, and that I could grab onto. So for me, it's about these things. These stories are untold and need to be told. They don't need to be told necessarily as they happened. The opportunity to fictionalize it can make for a more interesting story, or sometimes even a more compelling story. So that's really what I try to do. As far as just getting started is, what is it that Stephen King says? The writer needs to do only two things. He needs to read, and she needs to write. Write. Look at that blank piece of paper, write your poem, write the next things that come into your mind. Get the process and the juices started. And I have found that as I write, things come to me. You know, the plot that I had originally for the book for Throwaway Boy is very different from the plot that I actually wrote down, because more ideas and more ideas came.
Right.
The process of writing is the creative process. It's actually very, very fun.
Well, and so you're taking some actual things that happen in your life and fictionalize them. Marie, did you ever think about maybe writing this as a fiction so that you would not? Okay.
How mine got started, I entered a 30-day writing challenge hosted by international bestselling author Nalena Kai. She had posted it on Facebook. And that night when I met via Zoom, they were talking about writing a memoir. So, and I remember one of the instructions, she said, if it's something that hurts, do not start it at night. Do not write about it at night. And it was night. And as soon as I got off the call, that was the only thing that came to mind to write. And that's where it was born. I wrote the first chapter that night.
Really?
Yes.
But she said, if it hurts, don't start at night.
Yes. It was like I was waiting for the opportunity to get it out. I had never thought of writing a book, but it's almost as if it was like, here it is. God wants you to do this. And I just went through that. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So then you wrote that night. Were you able to sleep, or it's things that keep you up at night?
Things that keep you up at night.
I love your book.
It's when the times are quiet and your mind just roam. Things just hit you. Just it's on rewind.
So Marie, in your ministry and the outreach that you've done to other people who have been in your situation, did you ever think of writing about their stories as well, whether through a fictionalized version as I've done, or maybe something more direct and more?
I have thought about it and probably will. I mentioned a few that I've encountered in a setting, but not in detail.
And so, John, you've been to the book festivals, and you're asking Marie about writing with other people or about other people. Any of you, any thoughts of maybe I'll hear some more books in the people that I meet at the book festival?
Oh, I think you'll find a lot of stories out there, not only ones that have already been written, but the people who come to buy your books.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I remember I was at a Christmas market last year, and a former Peace Corps volunteer came up to buy my first book. And when I listened to his story about what he went through in Peace Corps and when he got out of Peace Corps and things that happened to him, I went, wow, you've got to write that. You've got to tell that story, because it's worth telling. It needs to be told. So those kinds of experiences are part of what make a book festival so engaging and worthwhile. Those kinds of interactions and the meeting of people and hearing of other stories. And then, maybe striking up a relationship to help somebody and encourage somebody to tell their story.
Yes.
So what is it that in people to write from both of you? What's the first thing that people should do?
Oh dear, the first thing, everybody is different. I try to encourage my brother to write a story. He's got a great idea for a story. He won't sit down and write it. He just either doesn't have the time or doesn't believe enough of himself, or I don't know what it is. Yeah. But overcoming the inertia and whatever that takes is the step that people have to take. They have to believe in their own story. I think that's the first thing I would say. You have to really believe their own story, or the story that they want to tell, and understand it. And you don't even have to write a novel. Sit down and just sketch it out. Take a look at it on paper and see if it resonates with you, or if you want to tweak it, or maybe you need to add detail here. So just that process of starting to look at it on paper, I think, is a way that a lot of people can get telling their stories in a more substantive way.
And I encourage all of you who are watching, if you have any questions of these two authors who've written incredible books that I know will make turn-paging, can't stop reading kind of reads. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'd love to ask them so they can answer it for you. Marie, you said you were in this 30-day challenge, and as soon as she said, write about your pain, it came to you and it started flowing. Do you remember that first sentence that you wrote, Marie?
Something like, it's amazing the way the mind works. Things that you want to remember, you don't remember, and the ones that you want to forget sticks to you closer than a brother. Something like that. Yes, something like that.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Huh. That's powerful.
The brutal irony of memory.
Have you ever tried to recall something that's like so important from a long time ago, and then you can't remember? It's like it's right there, but won't come. And then memories that you want to like push away, just like boom, 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 boom. It's like, yes.
Wow, what a true, powerful statement. And I wonder why our minds are so kind to us that way.
Constantly and rewind, constantly and rewind. Oh, dear.
I guess psychologists might say it's trying to be protective. The fact that
allowing you to remember?
The fact that you're remembering the bad things so that you can avoid them in the future.
Yeah. That's certainly a possibility. So for those who are, and my sister in Harvest, Alabama, she said, I'm at church, I'll watch later. Well, what are you doing on Facebook at church, Francis? Thank you for watching, though.
Well, her phone is her Bible, and it popped up.
Oh,
that's where my hymnal is. My hymnal is on my phone.
Your hymnal is on your phone?
Yes. And my Bible, when I go to church, it's my Bible on the Bible app. So, yeah.
And so when something pops up, you go over. Okay.
No, I don't. I'm just saying that's what happened to her.
Okay. All right. We'll excuse you this time.
One of the things I tell want to be authors, like I've been told, but I don't have the time. How did you find the time? I remember Nelena encouraged me to record while driving. Wow. Yes. And 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. I remember at the time I was an emergency room nurse. I would be writing I'm going to the bathroom. I have to use the bathroom. I have my phone. I'll be recording or, typing on the notes. Yeah, so it didn't have to be a lot of time. I'll take 15-minute slots wherever it's available, because you don't have to write 1,000 words per day, right? And the book doesn't have to be written in order. You can put it in order afterwards.
Even journaling, people who just journal every day, just listen and let your soul speak through journaling.
Yes. I do a gratitude journal every night.
Oh, you do?
Yes. I find at least 3 things for which I'm grateful and 3 affirmations every night.
Well, that's wonderful.
That's quite a discipline too.
Yes.
Forces you to look at the good.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you do any kind of journaling, J.E.?
So I got started with a journal when I was back in a young man back in West Africa. I kept a journal. In fact, I kept multiple journals, and I used them as references later on to write the book. I started a journal when I was also I was fortunate enough to be a tech executive for a period of time, and I remember keeping a journal about how I was interacting with people on a regular basis and the different encounters I would have, different situations, and how I could reflect on that to help me going forward. So I think journaling is a great idea. I think anybody who can, find the time to just write a little bit about their daily lives and their own thoughts can eventually bring all that together in some fashion. And if they want to write a book of some kind, they'll have a start to it. And I would encourage that to anybody who wants to write a novel or just a nonfiction book of any kind.
I have certainly enjoyed visiting with you all this evening, and I know those who are watching feel the same way and appreciate you sharing your works with us. They will be at the Sunshine State Book Festival, January 27th and 28th, 2023, at Trinity United Methodist Church in Gainesville, Florida. My good friend Carrie Knox in Jackson, Tennessee, watching. I appreciate you watching, Carrie, so much. And all of you, I appreciate you watching, sharing some great advice on the gratitude journal, great advice on just writing about this journey that we're on because it's biblical.
Yes.
Your journey will help somebody else
Yes.
because we're overcomers, and it will encourage us to continue to move forward. And there's a scripture that says, and they were overcome by the words
And
their testimonies.
Yes.
So your works that you're doing, it's a form of your testimony, and we really, really appreciate that. Carrie writes, love the gratitude journal idea. I started doing this a few years ago, but alas, I fell off the wagon. I've been encouraged to start up again. See?
Excellent. Well done. There's one life just tonight that you've affected, Marie. I think that's fantastic.
Yes.
And Louise McKinney Davis, appreciate your stories. Thank you all so much for watching.
Pamela, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
It's been a joy. You've been great. We really appreciate it.
And I look forward to the festival. Look forward to meeting you, John.
Oh, likewise, Marie. That's going to be exciting.
Thanks.
It's like the Brady Bunch. Can you play it?
well maybe.
Will you be there, Pamela?
Huh?
Will you be there?
Oh, absolutely, because my book, The Art of Forgiveness, will be a part of it.
Oh, okay, great. Yes.
Yeah.
Can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
I'll be there with you and with you.
Okay, and the others. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it very much. I will be back here because we're going to interview a whole lot of these authors, and I think you will have an opportunity to be inspired. Melissa Dedrick said, great interview. Thank you so much. I appreciate you watching. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you next time.